All right, you're up to date with the international news. Let's get you a roundup of the business. I'm joined in the studio by France 24's Catherine Bennett. Hello to you, Catherine. We're starting off with news that the UK's economy shrunk in the last year.
It did. So the economy contracted by 2.9% in January and is down 9% from figures a year ago. Now, that may sound bad, but economists are actually breathing a sigh of relief. That's smaller than the almost 5% decline that experts had predicted, and significantly less than the fall in GDP during the country's first lockdown a year ago. Now, that somewhat positive data was overshadowed, however, by the news that exports to the European Union plunged after Brexit. Exports to the EU fell by £5.6 billion in January, with exports of food and live animals the hardest hit, falling 63%. Yinka Oyatade has the story.
It's been over 3 months since the UK walked away from the EU single market and customs union, but there still seems to be bumps on the road. Trade between the two took a big hit in January. Exports to the bloc plunged by over 40%, while imports from the EU to the UK suffered a decline of nearly 30%. It's the biggest fall since records began, and experts say Brexit is the culprit.
The significant slump in UK exports of goods to the EU, particularly compared to non-EU trade, provides an ominous indication of the damage being done to post-Brexit trade with the EU by the current border disruption.
British food exporters were hit hardest. Their goods are now subject to custom rules and checks before they arrive on European soil. It's extra red tape that's causing major headaches for businesses. The paperwork has sparked severe delays on both sides of the English Channel, but the government remains positive about post-Brexit life. They say the plunge in trade was due to a combination of factors, including COVID lockdowns and stockpiling ahead of the Brexit deadline. While the flow of goods suffered a painful blow in the first month of 2021, authorities say trade has been back to normal levels since the start of February.
Tim Berners-Lee, the man credited with inventing the internet, has warned about a growing digital divide. The World Wide Web Foundation, which he co-founded with Rosemary Leith, published a letter Friday saying that a third of young people globally don't have access to the internet. They think internet access should be recognised as a basic right and are calling on world leaders to invest in universal broadband. The letter explains that having more people online pushes up a country's GDP, and universal broadband in the developing world would result in $8.7 trillion of direct economic benefit. Leith and Berners-Lee conclude by saying that the world can't afford not to do it. Now let's take a look at global markets at the end of the week. Indices in Europe ended the week mixed. London's FTSE actually gained 0.33% off a drop in the pound, despite the negative economic data. The CAC 40 was also in positive territory, while the DAX lost gains from earlier in the day and was down almost 0.5% at the close. Over on Wall Street, stocks carry on being mixed, but the Dow Jones has since jumped 250 points to an all-time high, up 0.75%. The S&P 500 retreated 0.5%, while the Nasdaq has shed almost 1% after Tesla, Netflix and Facebook led a sell-off. Lebanon's parliament on Friday approved a $246 million loan from the World Bank. The money should allow the country to start giving cash handouts to around 150,000 families who have been suffering through an unprecedented economic crisis. Today, Lebanon's local currency hit a new record low on the black market, sparking protests. France has tried to lead efforts to resolve Lebanon's political and economic crisis by urging politicians to enact reforms. But France's foreign minister said yesterday that time was running out.
L'ensemble des acteurs s'était engagé à agir, à la fois dans la composition rapide d'un gouvernement inclusif et par ailleurs dans l'engagement des réformes indispensables. C'était il y a 7 mois et rien ne bouge. Je pense qu'il n'est pas encore trop tard, mais les délais sont très courts avant l'effondrement.
Earlier this week, at an OVH data centre in eastern France, brought down the websites and email of thousands of companies. Now those businesses are worried about what's happened to their data. OVH only assures data backup for paying clients and says that whether data is still salvageable depends on where it physically was stocked in the warehouse. The incident has highlighted that companies still run the risk of losing valuable data, even when using the cloud. Camille Nedelec has more on this story.
A fire in the real world is having a huge impact on the digital world, after a blaze at an OVH data centre in Strasbourg brought the IT systems of many businesses to a standstill.
Il n'y a personne dans l'entreprise. Aujourd'hui, on ne travaille pas.
This chimney sweeping firm no longer has access to its own data, including its appointments, which were stored on the servers destroyed in the fire.
On ne sait pas où on doit aller demain, on ne sait pas où on doit aller après-demain. On ne connaît pas les clients, on ne connaît pas leur numéro de téléphone, on ne peut rien savoir.
Meanwhile, the online store of this clothes shop in Toulouse is down.
On a reçu des coups de fil. J'ai essayé d'aller sur votre site. En fait, on ne peut pas acheter sur votre site. En fait, voilà, c'est pas très agréable.
A total of 3.6 million websites are affected, including the Centre Pompidou Arts Museum in Paris and a number of government websites. OVH operates 27 data centres worldwide, competing against Amazon and Microsoft. And almost 2% of all websites with the domain FR were hit. The CEO pledged to be transparent about the causes of the fire.
Je tiens encore une fois à m'excuser pour cette situation exceptionnelle, mais qui, je peux vous assurer, ça ne va plus jamais arriver.
The company urged clients to activate their disaster data recovery plans, which is how the archives of the city of Quimper were back online within hours.
On a systématiquement le site qui se trouve sur d'autres serveurs et qui peut être remis en ligne rapidement.
But not all clients may have a plan B, and they'll have to wait for OVH servers to come back online over the next 2 weeks.
And finally from me, a review of diversity in the boards of the top 100 FTSE companies has revealed that almost a fifth of them lack any ethnic minority representation. The London Stock Exchange, JD Sports and British Airways owner International Airlines Group are some of the companies with no ethnic diversity on their boards. This comes after a report in February said that there were no black executives in the top 3 roles at any of Britain's 100 biggest companies, for the first time since 2014. That wraps up the business from me.
All right, let's hope those FTSE companies can get their skates on when it comes to diversity. Catherine, thanks very much for the business roundup.